let's just prove the point here. Nutnfancy with a Glock 17. I'm going to take my unloaded 17 round magazine, throw it in the dirt, kick it around in the dirt.
Take the mag out.
I'll clean it later. I got other mags. Let's just see how the Glock works when we do that. Oh yeah. Yeah, I like testing the gear. Am I running too fast for you?
Trying to keep it steady, dude. Too cool for school.
Oh, twice.
Wow, cool. Cool.
Not too bad.
That's good. I'm proud of you.
Better.
See,
But
I hang out with some pretty cool guys.
that dirt magazine in the Glock, 100%. Thank you very much. Glock remains one of my top recommended go-to-war pistol options. Guys will say, Nutnfancy, what do you mean go-to-war pistol option? Well, one of two things. Either you are going to have your sidearm of choice strapped in open carry by your side pretty much every day, all day, or you are choosing to have an emergency sidearm in addition to your primary weapon. Maybe that weapon is a tactical carbine of whatever sort, maybe a combat shotgun, but you also want some more depth in your weapon layering, as I like to call it. So a sidearm is in order. Maybe it's a Glock, maybe it's a 1911, or many of the other outstanding designs available as of 2009, and there's lots. You see me firing them in the Nutnfancy project, and many are as equally impressive to me as the Glock. However, in some ways, the Glock still sets a standard. For instance, weight. 24.5 ounces for a Glock 17. That's a full-size 17+1 service pistol. Under 25 ounces. And yet you give up nothing in terms of accuracy, reliability, durability in the design. Very, very proven. That's why law enforcement agencies all over the U.S. continue to use Glock as their primary sidearm, because it's just an amazing design and it's comfortable to carry. And that's one of the key caveats for me for a go-to-war gun option. Since we are, in the first scenario, carrying it all the time, for me, I want a gun that's easy to carry, that's lightweight and comfortable, but gives nothing up in terms of those qualities that I just mentioned, especially firepower. I want lots of rounds ready to rock and roll if I need it. I would like the magazines to also be lightweight and easy to carry. As a system, it's got to be comfortable. In scenario 2, where we're opting to have it as our sidearm, well, also lightweight is extremely important, don't you think? You're going to be carrying body armor, tactical nylon, water, first aid supplies, tactical carbine with its optics and lights, ammunition for both guns, extra magazines, clothing. You might need cold weather clothing. All that weight adds up, dudes. And if you are not watching the ounces, they quickly turn into pounds. And the next thing you know, you have lost your mobility. Remember, you're just a human being. You have a limited capacity for endurance. The more you weigh yourself down, the more you're going to suck at your endurance. The quicker it's going to wear out. I've seen it lots and lots of times, both in my running guns, in my duty, and in my personal life shooting throughout the years, hiking and backpacking. Watch the weight. And again, that's where the Glock shines. I know. I'm kind of reiterating a lot of the things I said in the multi-part review series of the Glock 17. You'll see it there in annotation. But I had to set the stage because it's interesting, and it also reiterates the outstanding nature of the Glock design, even after all of its competitors giving it a good run for its money, to be honest. And man, there's some good gun choices out there. Glock isn't the only one. You see me shoot some of them, and I love them almost as much as I do the Glock, in some ways better. I'll talk about that. Anyways, on to the point of this video. After that introduction, I'm going to be talking about Glock modifications that I dig. that I like personally, that I think will make the Glock, at least for me, a better shooting gun. A caveat though, this is not the end-all expert on Glocks, nor do I ever want to act like I am. However, I have lots of experience in the type since the freaking 1980s. So yeah, I've put more than a few thousand rounds through my Glocks. I have some preferences, and I kind of have figured out for me what works, and I'm going to share those with you. These are cost-effective modifications I'm going to show you, by the way. They won't break the bank. They won't ruin the design in any way. They're easily enough removed if you don't like them. What you're looking at, by the way, is on loan a brand new Glock 17 in that radical colored olive drab frame. Isn't that cool? I love their coloration. Much more so than perhaps a Ruger SR9 that has kind of a more greeny look to it. This is almost a flat desert earth, don't you think? Yeah, I know. Nutnfancy loves that flat desert earth. I do. But this is how the gun comes to you out of the box. And for many users, it's completely adequate. Of course, safety checked. First off, let's talk about the trigger and what I do to my Glocks. As it comes from the factory, if I'm not mistaken, it has about a 5-pound trigger pull. And for most users, that will be more than adequate. It's nice and crisp. Yes, it's striker fired. Some guys that love the single action don't like it. I don't want to get distracted on that. But for me, it can be improved, and this is the first modification I'm going to talk about, by the application of a 3.5-pound trigger connector. This is a cheap part too. Let me see, and I'll try to throw some prices at you just so you have an idea. This will be around 15 bucks. If you have an FFL connection through Brownells, $13.50 for the Sheer brand, a 3.5-pound connector. It's easy to install. I'm not going to burn airtime showing you. All you do is take the gun down, take the trigger housing out, and you can insert this in there. What it's supposed to do is improve the length of pull, the reset, and prevent a little bit of the over travel. This one, of course, is factory. The olive drab Glock 17 in the background, of course, is my own, wearing all my modifications to include that 3.5-pound connector, and it produces just a little bit lighter trigger pull. Why do I like that? Rate of fire. That's why I like a trigger pull that's lighter. I can crank off rounds much quicker with a lighter trigger pull. I don't hear anybody else talking about this, by the way. When they talk about light trigger pulls, they're talking about accuracy, that it's harder to stay on target with a harder trigger pull, and I agree with that. But for me, and primarily, rate of fire. If I lighten up my trigger pull, I can rock and roll. Some guys will say, well, don't dick around with the trigger on a Glock or any other gun for that matter, because then the lawyers will go after you if and when, heaven forbid, you ever have to employ your gun in defense of yourself. How do I think about that? I'm not too worried about it. Pretty much not at all. I will modify my gun however I see fit, however I think it will best serve me in a defensive, perhaps offensive role, depending on my POU. I'll just modify it. I don't really care about the lawyers. And do what you want. For me, though, I like a 3.5-pound trigger pull on the Glock. That's not to say that I'm unhappy with a stock 5-pound Glock trigger. I actually don't mind it. But if given a preference, and especially at that low price point, I will sub in a 3.5-pound connector, and I have done so on most of my Glocks. While we're looking at it, that is a smooth trigger face on this Glock 17 as it came from the factory. I do slightly prefer that smooth trigger face over perhaps the serrated variety, which you will see that you can also buy both Glock factory, I believe, and also some aftermarket variations and swap it in if you want to. Me, I really don't have strong preferences one way or another, but if I had to make a decision, I'd go with the smooth face. This is a very needed accessory in my mind. This is actually a Glock factory, it's extended magazine release, and costing all of around $7. This is what it looks like when it comes to you in package. I think the part number is right there, 1981. And very lightweight, very easy to install. You can do all of these modifications yourself. You don't have to employ the services of a gunsmith. One thing I recommend before you do this, and I've done it on all of mine, take your 400 grit sandpaper, dudes, and start sanding this. See how sharp those edges are right there? Those are too sharp. So 400 grit black automotive sandpaper and sand them very lightly, getting rid of all those sharp edges, just like I've done on this mag release on this Glock 17, and that's what you'll have. Ergonomic, easy to access, and no, it doesn't lead to inadvertent magazine drops. Some guys will say that, well, if it's sticking out that far, aren't you going to be pressing all the time? I've never found that to be the case with the way I shoot. You know, if your grip is different, I don't know, maybe you have to worry about it. Great addition, lightweight, super inexpensive. Put it on all your Glocks. Now, there's some other varieties too, to include aro-tek. I think Lone Wolf Distributors has some that may require some frame modifications. I think that just goes overboard. I'm happy with this. Again, cheap, effective, gets the job done. I don't need anything more special than that. This is another one I like. First, a little bit of philosophy. Some guys, when they reload, will never use a slide release to drop the slide stripping off a new round. They will just come off with their offhand, use their biggest slide release of all, that is the slide itself. I understand that. I've done that many times myself. Love it. That's great. I like options though. And as it comes from the factory, the Glock does take a few ergonomic hits, and I've said so in my review of the gun. Every time I pick this up, safety checking is just a great habit. So safe direction, safety check to pull that trigger. I always like that in its rearward most position if I'm handling it for any length of time. Like I was saying though, there's a slide release on a standard Glock. It sucks. See how it's flush? That's good, I guess, in that it's not going to snag on anything. But as far as being easily accessed on a slide that actually has a fair amount of force to drop, it blows. You just can't get leverage on it. It's painted. I just don't like it. But it's very easy and very inexpensive to upgrade it, just like you see on my Glock 17 here. And this again is a Glock factory accessory. I didn't go overboard getting aro-tek or LW, Lone Wolf Distributors or whatever. Not that theirs aren't great, they are, but they cost. I mean, I don't want to spend 30, 40 bucks on this little tiny piece. Instead, I will go with the extended slide release off a Glock 34 or 35. And I think that's part number 7489 in the Glock inventory for a 2-pin gun. 3-pin gun will be part number 7496. What do I mean about the pins? Let me see, what do I have for my pointer? Oh, Delica 3 serves a duty tonight. This is what the pins mean. These assembly pins right here. There's 3 on this newer Glock. The older ones just had 2. This Glock 19 with a crimson trace, I may make mention of that later. 2 pins, see that? And so when you order your extended slide release, remember those part numbers, showed them in annotation there, and just get the right one. It's not a big deal if you get the wrong one. The 3-pin or the 2-pin, I forget which it is, one of them has like a metal nub on it, and it doesn't fit in one of the guns, and I think I ordered the wrong extended slide release one year, and I just ground it off, and it fit just fine. That's about the only difference between the two. So easy to install as well. All you're going to do is drift out your takedown pin here, slide it in, just watch the relationship of the springs there. Easy as pie. Notice the thumb shelf though. It doesn't look like much, does it? It's just like, wow, I can't believe that's an improvement. It is. Unlike the Glock factory, or I'm sorry, the regular one, see how that sticks out and protrudes? And yes, you can access that and drop the slide when the slide locks back, no problem. The reason I like that option is because if I have an injured hand and I can, or if I just can only do it with one hand, easy enough to do. You just drop it, bam. Love that Glock extended slide release. Cheap, cheap, cheap. How about the grip? And for many dudes, the Glock takes some hits for ergonomics. And I think that's a well-reasoned and justifiable criticism against the type. First off, the grip angle, I don't do anything with, obviously. The grip angle is what it is. It's going to be more Luger-esque, if you will. In other words, it's not a 1911 grip angle. I've talked about that in my reviews, mentioned it a couple times. If I had my choice, I would like the grip angle of maybe the excellent Springfield XDM. Great gun. In some ways, for lots of different people, this has better ergonomics for them, did you hear me? For them, than the Glock. Understood. But back to this, the grip angle I just live with. I think it's easily trained with. Not a big deal for me. I wish this palm swell wasn't so big for me. But again, just a little bit of training and dry fire practice, you'll get used to it. You will quickly accommodate to the Glock design. Again, my hands trend towards larger size. If you are small-handed, and I know a lot of shooters like this, they don't like the Glocks for that because they are kind of bulky in the grip. Yes, I know Glock has the slim frame designs out in several of their models, and that is a great option to reduce the circumference of the grip. So that's that. But one thing that at least this model of Glock did not have, and that is efficient texturing of the grip frame, the polymer. Yeah, it's stippled back here, stippled in the front, has, the finger grooves, but on the side, it really sucks. If your hands get bloody, if they're sweaty, a standard grip, or the standard Glock grip for me is not enough. But again, it's very easily fixed, and this is how I've done it in the past. First up, the Glock 17, which you just saw. This is a product called Decal Grip. Comes in 2 different varieties. Safety checked. Get that trigger in a safe mode. 2 varieties. This is the rubber version of Decal Grip. It's my favorite. Very thin. It doesn't add a lot of bulk to the grip. It will add a little bit, so you need to understand or decide if that's good for you. Here's what it looks like. This is Decal Grip for the Glock 26, 27 series. Very affordable. If you look around, you can get Decal Grip for around $8 if you have an FFL contact. If you don't, I don't know, around $10. And it comes in all the different variations for your model of Glock. Also, it comes in both finger groove variety and non-finger groove, kind of like this older 19 again in the background. What a great product it is, because it solves that problem of traction when you have moisture or blood on your hands. It's great grip and it's very durable. I said I prefer the rubber. A lot of guys, not a lot, some of the dudes, including Sterling there at Impact Guns, likes the sandpaper Decal Grip. They find that it provides really good traction in their hand. I understand that, but to me, I think it's too much traction. Not just in hand, but also against your clothes as you're carrying it. It's skateboard tape, dudes, and so in essence, it's just really rough sandpaper. The rubber, to me, outstanding. Love it. Another product you might want to look at, and I've used it, like on this Glock 26, is A-Grip by Brooks Tactical. It is expensive. Definitely not as cost-effective as you saw the Decal Grip, but it's an interesting and effective product. What it is a very thin synthetic suede that you apply yourself to the grip of the gun. As you see, it goes right over the magazine release as well. It's designed to do that, and it doesn't impede the function of it at all. You still press it as normal. The instructions talk about all of that. The only thing that I have found, one, the cost. I think it is overpriced for what you get. It always has been. I don't know why he prices it that high. But secondly, it does not wear as well as Decal Grip. You can see this A-Grip material is kind of in the high wear areas, running towards the end of its useful life, probably needs to be replaced. So it's just not as durable. But it's very warm to the touch, and it provides amazing traction and comfort in hand. That's the Brooks A-Grip material. Look it up. If you're only going to do it one time to one gun, who cares? I think it's around $25 per gun for the material. It's really cool stuff as long as you can live with those limitations. How about other things like the recoil spring guide in the Glock? I don't mess with it. Let me take this one down. Again, this is to the rear. It's already safety checked. We'll field strip this Glock 17. This is what we're talking about. I leave this stock. There's some aftermarket options out there, I think, that will replace the recoil spring guide, saying that, well, the plastic chips, it cracks, it's not durable. I've never seen that. I find that the stock recoil spring assembly in a Glock is extremely durable, as has, I think, Chuck Taylor with his Glock 17, of which has, hundreds of thousands of rounds in it. I wouldn't change anything. You might want to have a couple extra on hand. Put this back together. If you ever do wear it out, that's an option. And I do for my Glocks. They're cheap. Almost all the parts, once again, to Glock are very cost effective. On to sights. I think in most POUs, it would be very advantageous to add tritium sights to your Glock. Ideally, they will come directly from the factory. I love the Glock night sights. I'm not sure who makes it for them, maybe Meprolite, but they're bright, they're easily identified, love them, and you don't have to fool around with installing them yourself. So if you are in the market or going to buy a Glock, I recommend paying the $85 extra, getting those night sights to come with your gun. If you're going to retrofit them yourselves, some guys will say, Nutnfancy, what's your favorite types? Well, I've used a lot in the last 20 or so years on Glocks. I've used Tridges, that is Trigicon, Meprolites, some other brands that I can't even remember. Currently using some True Glows, not on a Glock, but a SIG, so I'm kind of evaluating that brand. But I have found through the years that Meprolites are the brightest ones. They say they're brighter in their advertisements, like by 20%. I find that to be true. Brighter and more easily seen than Tridges. I don't mind the green on green options. Some guys will opt, I don't know, for different colorations, maybe a yellow front, 2 green back, all that stuff. I don't know if you can see these. I'm not going to turn all my lights off. But the Meprolites are outstanding. If you do decide to mount those yourselves, don't try to do it with a drift. You're going to jack up your rear sight. The front sight's easy to take off as long as you have that little hex tool that will come with a lot of the sights, or you can buy it separately. That's an easy enough addition, but you will need a pusher tool for the rear sight. There's some multi-brand pusher tools that I recommend. Going to the Glock catalog, they show their own, which is extremely expensive, of course. Right there. But push them, don't hammer them, or find a buddy that can do it for you, and then you'll love them. Incidentally, where is it? I have a Glock 34 here. There it is on the table. This is a different brand of sight, which I also like. Not as bright as the MEPS. This is a set of the Heine straight 8s with a tritium dot. One tritium dot in the rear, one in the front. But I love them because for this particular gun, they have great precision. And I kind of look at the Glock 34 as a more precise, longer range pistol option. That's just me. And yet you still have a night vision, not night vision, but a night shooting capability. Love the serrated ramp back here on the Heinies. And they're maximizing their sight radius. See how they push that back blade all the way to the rear of the slide? Excellent job. Good serration there. That's another great option. It's the Heine straight 8s, tritium dots. Outstanding. I have seen and used on Glock 34s and 35s Meprolite adjustables, and I have a pair in the baggie here to show you, and I don't generally recommend them, and here's why. They have a very high blade on them. See that? That's from the Meprolite adjustable sights, and if we compare it against, well, I guess it's about, it is a little bit higher. See that? How high? It's kind of a butter blade on that Glock 34. I didn't really care for that. Why would you need adjustable sights on a Glock, you might ask? Reloaders. If you're doing different loads, it's a great way to zero in your sights right where they need to be for different reloads. So that's a good option. But if you go with these, you just got to keep in mind, at least with the MEPS, you're going to have a high butter blade up there. Just remember this, and before I move on, a couple more points about grip. Glock now has an RTF version of several of their models. That stands for rough textured frame, supposedly curing the slickness problem of many of these models. The RTF is out there. You can order it if you don't already have a Glock. I have not done a shooting evaluation on the type yet, so I really don't know if indeed it solves that slickness problem. But if you do have one of these Glock models, if you're not happy with the grip, and I know a lot of guys are, they just say, hey, I don't have any problems with the Glock grip at all. But if you're interested in increasing the traction on the side, another option I failed to mention is the rubber sleeve that you can just slide on. This is on, of course, the outstanding Ruger SR9, previously reviewed in the Nutnfancy project. What a great gun that is. Another great competitor against the Glock, but wearing the older style of Hogue rubber sleeve. You just pull it on, easy enough to do. You might swab it with alcohol if it's difficult for you, and then it'll just slide right on. I say older style because this one didn't have and does not have those ridiculous palm swells that they put in their sleeves nowadays. If you go buy a new Hogue brand rubber sleeve, it puts palm swells in there, and so that increases the circumference of your grip, which I do not care for. I love this older style much better. I went to Lone Wolf's website. They again are the Glock experts, one of them. I love those guys. They have lots of different varieties of Glock accessories, many of them their own brand. They also market their own brand of rubber sleeve. I think it's devoid of those palm swells. It's called the Lone Wolf Quick Grip, around $10. One caveat: if you go with the slip-on rubber sleeve, it does grab clothing. And no, these two rubbers are different. The rubber decal grip and the slip-on sleeve, This is a harder rubber to me, and it's textured. It does not grab clothing like the one on the left does. So it just depends on what your POU is going to be for your Glock. And if you'd want that, I know a lot of dudes love it. And I will say, once you do grasp it, excellent traction, a little bit thickness and circumference, of course, but it is an improvement over the standard Glock grip. On to magazines. If you are a 9mm user of a Glock, which I highly recommend, I think it's a very size-efficient caliber. Getting back to the weight considerations, it's lightweight and with the right loads, and if you do your part, it'll get the job done. Another advantage is you have incredible magazine options if you go with a 9mm Glock. This is a flat base, not a 17-round magazine for the Glock 17, of course. I do recommend, well, I don't know if I recommend it, but I like it, to add a +2 base plate to my full-size Glock 17s. That makes this magazine 19-rounder, which is outstanding. Now, some guys will say, well, that may jack around with the reliability of the magazine. I don't find that to be a factor with the DF or drop-free variety of magazines. And what I mean by that is, years ago, if you guys don't know, Glock had non-fully metal-lined magazines. They were called NDFs, and they would not drop free in some configurations, like when they're empty, if I'm not mistaken. I have a couple of those. I did put some +2 base plates on that type of magazine, and I did experience some problems with feeding. In other words, the spring was just not strong enough. Again, that's a pretty easy fix. Just buy some Lone Wolf springs for it, or Wolf springs, I should say. Slap them in there and you'll have a nice strong spring again with a +2 capability. This is the older style, actually newer style, Glock +2, and here is on the table the old style, which I actually prefer, is straight. See the difference? This is old, this is the new, this is one you'll get nowadays. But I love it. Now it's a 19-round magazine with just a little bit of additional length in the grip, which for my size hands is nice. I don't mind it at all. And this is a go-to-war gun, not a concealed carry option, so I don't mind if it sticks out of the grip at all. If you do have those NDF magazines, I kind of relegate them to range use. I think they are reliable without the +2 base plates on them, in my experience. If you retrofit them with a spring, they're completely reliable, but I kind of use mine for range use, and I go with the DFs for combat use. Incidentally, see that? I do engrave all my magazines, just like that. Especially if you have a Glock 19 in inventory or something's around the same size, keep an inventory of your mags, of which gun it goes to, and that's a great way for you to keep track of your inventory, and maybe in the heat of battle, make sure you don't put the wrong magazine in the gun. Just a thought. Do you need 33-round mags? I don't know. Options are good. And here we go with the Glock factory 33-round mag, and this is another accessory which I believe in, and another advantage with going with a 9mm chambering. Initially designed for the Glock 18 machine pistol, they're made available at lots of different sources, and the prices go up and down on these depending on supply and demand, but it is a great way to have lots of rounds almost on par with a submachine gun from your Glock semi-automatic pistol. Just an amazing capability. I said that in my tabletop of the Glock 17. And there are some other reliable options out there besides the Glock brand. If you ask me, I'm going to put this in the stock Glock 17. But here's one I just found. I can't really speak to its reliability yet, but it sure looks good. This is called the Victory brand that I bought from Bowtac Tactical, or Bowtash Tactical. You'll see an annotation. 15 bucks? That's right, $15, I think, plus their stimulus discount. And it looks identical to the Glock factory 33-round mag. You can see it. Fully metal lined, same fit and finish quality. The only thing I can tell, and this is just from an initial observation, is the spring tension in the Glock factory is a little bit stronger than the Victory model. But my hunch is that it's going to be equally reliable. And actually, Bowtac on their webpage says as much. They said it's every bit as good in terms of the factory 33 round. But 15 bucks, awesome. So if you need firepower options for your go-to-war Glock, you might want to consider the 33 round mag. Remember, this video is intended for law enforcement, civilian sheepdogs, the good guys, military types. So that's who I'm talking to out there. I forgot to show you guys this. This is an aro-tek extended slide release. on this Glock 26, and you can compare and contrast that against the one I told you about, the Glock factory. Not a heck of a lot of difference, would you say? And yet the one on the right, that aro-tek, is a lot more money. A lot more money. I love them both, but I love the price on the Glock factory a lot more. Finally, a couple light options. Again, there's so many out there. I cannot begin to cover them all. Here is the Glock factory light. They have a light laser combination, and these are the older style xenon variety. In other words, it has a bulb. The LED technologies have totally blown this away. Go watch my light reviews of Phoenix flashlight reviews, you know, advancements in lighting technologies. I've talked a lot about it. However, this will still work, especially if you decide to just keep it in your lockbox next to your bed. It's the light you're not going to use that much. It is purpose built for the Glock, the full-size ones specifically. It fits so nicely on there. Trim enough. I love the lightness of the Glock lights. They have all kinds of artifacts in the beam. Don't even get me started. It's just garbage. You can kind of see, maybe you can't, just take it from me. It's not an impressive beam. It's just, you know, the older style. It still gets the job done though. And again, if you want the laser built into it, you can. I think there's some other options out there that are better. Maybe the Streamlight TLR3, which is more compact, incorporating the Cree LEDs. You see how much brighter and wider that is. Much better option. Small. You'll have to figure out which key fits best in the Glock, and it will fit probably a little bit farther forward like that as it goes. That keyway index is right here. I don't have it mounted, of course, to the Glock yet, but another good lighting option. And if you're using it as a home defense weapon, I highly recommend you put a light on the rail of your Glock. So in the middle of the night, you can do your most important job, and that is target identification. So you do not do an inadvertent shooting against one of your loved ones or something like that. Please don't do that. Always make sure of your target. In fact, if you possibly can, retreat. Get out of the way. Your gun is your absolute last option if you've exhausted all else. And then if you have to, at least you have a way to defend your loved ones. There you have it. I probably forgot some of the modifications, but I think I've covered everything on this Glock 17. The decal grip, extended mag release, 3.5 pound connector, extended slide release, Mepro light night sights. That's about it. When I have all those things, maybe a +2 base plate on my magazine, I'm a happy camper, and my Glocks are ready to rock and roll. None of these additions are going to break the bank again. They're all cost effective, easy to install, and very fun to install as well. Those are the Nutnfancy Glock modifications on still one of my top recommended go-to-war pistol options, the Glock semi-automatic. Nutnfancy, thanks for the good ratings, thanks for the support, more vids coming your way. I hope this answered your questions. See ya! Alrighty, there you have it. Get a little pointer out here. It remains my reference pistol along with a SIG series, both the P226, 228. I will probably add some more pistols as time goes on that maybe rise to the level of these pistols as far as durability, accuracy, reliability.